Yo, what's going on, Dragon Ballers? Welcome back to another deck profile. Today I have Brandon, who got first place at the PPG Online Event over the weekend. Brandon, how you doing, man?
I'm doing pretty good.
Awesome, glad to hear it. Congratulations once again. I know I said it like 14,000 times about this first place, but very cool deck that you played. And yeah, I mean, if you had to ask me, a deck that I never would have thought would have topped an event in the recent format, I guess one of the decks would probably be Cell Surge. So definitely explain to me why you decided to play this deck, because looking at the list, I think it's definitely a lot stronger than I gave it credit for.
Yeah, so it actually goes back to what you had on the Patreon not too long ago about just playing a deck that you're super comfortable with, and this is a deck that I've been playtesting almost exclusively for the last like 2 months, just really putting it against the gauntlet of all the meta decks and trying to see how I can fine-tune it to make it stand up to all these heavy hitters.
I love it, dude. I really do believe that that's the case. Like, if you play a deck that you're really comfortable with, if you have a lot of reps with it, if you know the matchups and know how the deck functions, and you get a little bit of that surprise factor against your opponent, I think you're posed to do very well. So that's pretty awesome. I want to get into the main deck. So we have our Unison lineup. We have 4 Demigra and 2 Vegeta Resolute Agent of Destruction. So this is probably what I'm most curious about, because I think from past Cell Surge lists that we've seen, it seems like Cell Surge can really abuse Bardock Unison very well, because you have the Android 17 that you can just constantly bring back from the drop area every single turn for 1 energy. So why did you go with this Unison lineup, and did you ever try that play with the Bardock and did it just not work out?
So Bardock, having to wait till turn 2 to play down the Unison, and then just tapping out for that and not having really any follow-up till the next turn. Oftentimes it just felt like it was taking longer to do things, at least for what I wanted to do. And with Migra coming down on turn 1 and immediately having 2 counters so that you can play Charismatic Villain, and then on the next turn you have 2 open energy to either arrival some Krillin 18s to start applying pressure, or just do a Ribrianne and bring out a Goku Power of Legend. I felt like there was more options by just really hinging on Demigra more than Bardock. And then Vegeta, the Resolute Agent, was added after he came out because he's just a good finisher. After Demigra's kind of got his use out, helping with Awakening and attacking battle cards and being a threat to Invoker and stuff like that, you can go in for game with Double Strike Critical, and they have very few to no cards in hand, and so he's just going to get in there for that guaranteed double strike crit.
And you know what, too? I like that a lot about Demigra, because a lot of times in Cell Surge, at least when I used to play against it more in like Surge format when it came out, like, you never really wanted to attack the Cell Surge leader, because you never wanted them to be that 4 life to, either time walk you or use one of their surge effects. So Demigra just having that protection and giving you life, it actually just seems like super strong with the leader too. So that seems like a really good thing there too.
Definitely, yeah, he's a great self-awakener.
And then we have the Frieza package that you played. So 3 surprise attack Frieza, 2 parasitic 1-star balls, and then 2 Frieza Dark Infestation. So walk me through the ratios here, because I feel like 2 Frieza is kind of low, just because, like, if they end up in your drop area, if they end up in your life, you're in a bit of trouble. So was 2 fine? And explain like some of the plays that you would make with this.
Yeah, so this originally is concept that I found from Hayden, the Eggman, so shout out to him for introducing this to me in his deck a couple months back. But it originally was 444 when we started testing it, and it just I don't know, for whatever reason I didn't play into it a whole lot. Like, it was cool when I did it, but it didn't feel like something that I wanted to just really focus on. I guess it just felt like something that if it came up, it came up. And so 2 and 2 for the ball and the Dark Infestation just ended up feeling okay for me. I actually did use it to win my game on stream against Ginyu, so it has its uses, but it wasn't something that I just played for all the time, so I felt like 2-2 was fine.
That is pretty interesting, because I do remember seeing this from Eggman's deck profile, but in his deck, I'm pretty sure it was like the main engine. So it's kind of interesting to see that for you. It's like a little bit more of like a side engine. So let's see what we have going on the rest of the deck. So a lot of just are good green cards, right? 2 Dodoria, probably for, clearing Unison, maybe that occasional double strike for game. 4 Ribrianne, you're going to play it. 4 Charismatic Villain, and 3 Zamasu. So Zamasu, and I know you obviously know Marcus, you guys are pretty good friends. So me and Marcus and a few of other teammates been talking about Zamasu, Deity's Wrath, and on paper, it seems like, it pairs perfectly with Charismatic Villain. I mean, obviously it does, right? You just pop off Charismatic Villain, you play Zamasu. But we've been noticing that, like, getting the Frieza to stick has been difficult. Zamasu falls into things like God-Sling Technique Trunks. Sometimes it's just not, perfect Christmas land to play the Zamasu. So how did that combo in particular work out for you?
Yeah, so you're right with the Trunks. Definitely against blue, it can be kind of annoying, and so you kind of just have to play around it. Luckily, I only faced the one blue deck, Soul Striker Reboot, and so with them, blue doesn't have an obscene amount of draw power, in my opinion. They have basically leader swing, and then if you're a Zamasu, then you can pop an energy, get 2 leader swing draws, but
Right.
For the most part, you can just kind of dwindle their hand down until the point where they don't have the answer for the Zamasu, and then that's when you go in with it. But overall, Zamasu was fantastic. He's the reason I was able to take down Vegex, because just having them stick on board and not Vegex not having a way to remove them, it was just constant pressure every turn until eventually it allowed me to come back and win a game that looked pretty grim.
Yeah, I mean, when Zamasu does stick around, it seems like absurdly broken. We just been noticing it just sometimes, I don't know, sometimes it's hard to get him down. But I think in this deck, actually, you have a few other ways you can possibly get him down, like possibly dropping like one of these prize attack Friezas after you've done like maybe a Frieza chain and stuff like that. So maybe in a deck like this, it's a little bit better. But I've been playing a lot of green decks where Frieza is like the only way to drop it, and that's kind of, I don't know, maybe a little bit rough. But
yeah, that was the other reason Dodoria is can have a dual use there. Like you said, great for taking out unisons, good for going for game, but also he's a one cost that pairs well with all the other 4 drops, so that you can just sack one of the 4 drops in the Dodoria, and then you have your 5 for Zamasu.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Maybe going forward, maybe Zamasu will be actually a lot better in decks that have other ways to play him besides just Frieza. That actually opens my eyes a little bit. Pretty cool. All right, so going on to the green extra card lineup: 2 Cells Earthstrike Kamehameha, 1 Greater Good, and 3 Shocking Death Ball. So Greater Good, pretty cool in the deck because you can pitch it with your leader skill, and it still has usage. And then against Invoker, it's obviously really good there for when they pick it out of your hand and then they have the Victory Strike. Only 2 Earthstrike Kamehameha. Was this a good number? Did you wish you had more? Did it ever clunk?
It's just a card that I like so much, I have trouble cutting it. I just like the ability to pick indiscriminately out of my opponent's hand and get that 15k pump, so I want it there, but it's admittedly not something I use all the time. So 2 is just, if it comes up, it comes up. I used it a few times in the tournament, but it ends up getting charged a lot, if I'm honest.
I can definitely see that, because I feel like in the beginning of the format, all the mono green decks were playing 4 Cells Kamehameha, but in testing green myself too, I noticed it's a card that honestly can clunk a lot. Like a 115k that rips a card is very good, but sometimes on defense, you're just going to be tapped out and you're just going to be relying on, Dormant Potential Unleashed or Frieza Charismatic Villain. And that actually leads me to my other question. So obviously in this deck, you cannot play Dormant Potential Unleashed. So what really drew you to this deck, considering the fact you can't play one of the strongest green cards being Dormant? What pros does this deck offer that made it seem to you that Dormant wasn't a necessity, if you kind of get what I mean?
Yeah, no, that's definitely a question I've heard a lot. Why sell when you can't play Dormant? And that's kind of like the mono green good card right now. And
right.
I actually just this past week did try to venture out and play a mono green deck just so I can get some testing with Dormant Potential and see how I liked it. And in the end, I just came back to sell because the consistency is just unbeatable. I can't see myself dropping that top 5 search for whatever card I might need in favor of Dormant Potential Unleashed, which is a good card, but the way that I play this deck is really, I'm going to try to put you down to 0 cards in hand as much as I can, and if you have 0 cards in hand, there's not really much reason for me to need Dormant outside of maybe the Vegex matchup where it floods the board a lot, but we have tools to clear the board and kind of try to stifle their aggression and keep them at bay without the need for Dormant Potential Unleashed. But it's a great card. The consistency of Self Surge is is unmatched for me. I've really been loving this deck because you can just search whatever you need.
Very cool, man. And I like that a lot too. Like, it just goes to show that you can do well with a deck, and you don't have to shell out $1 million. Like, obviously you have the 4 rebrands in the deck, which is a decent amount of money, but you didn't have to then go and spend it on the Dorm Potential Unleashed. And that's kind of cool, because I feel like we're kind of coming back to a bit of a point where Dragon Ball is becoming a bit more affordable. Like, Surge format, it was ridiculously expensive, but now we're kind of coming back to like a happy middle ground, I feel like, which is good.
I hope so. Yeah, that would be really nice. I mean, you said that the Ribrian's getting reprinted. I saw in your video, so that'll be nice to get Ribrian's prices down as well.
Yeah, that's supposed to be coming in March. There was like a spoiled, I think it was a distributor email or something where they said that it was getting reprinted in March. So that's gonna be pretty cool to look forward to.
Nice.
So our multicolor lineup, we have 4 Dr. Gero, 4 Cell Dark Parasite, and 4 Krillin 18 power couple. So Dark Parasite really just like breathed new life into this deck. It's really strong, where you can just like, look top 5, pitch it, warp it, take a life if you want, draw a card, and then playing a free 30k on turn 4 is honestly pretty bonkers. So was this card the main playmaker for the deck?
Yeah, I mean, this card is what makes Cell Surge so good in my opinion now, is that the downside of the leader, which was having to pitch a card after you look at top 5, is almost non-existent because of him. You just pitch him, or if you get him into the drop somehow, and then just warp him, draw a card, take a life. So what turned into a search top 5, discard a card, go even, now is search top 5, get whatever you want, and then +2. So it's just an amazing card, and like you said, a free 30k is nothing to scoff at.
Yeah, man, it's really strong. And then my other question is Krillin 18. This is the arrival you went for, and it makes sense because, like you said, you want to rip their hand as much as you physically can. Is that the main reason why you went with this over like Rebrian or the Broly 6-drop?
Yes, yeah, that card, the Krillin 18, like, that was the final piece to the puzzle, where we've been tweaking the deck ratios, all that, and trying out different stuff, and getting it just quite there, but not to the peak. And then Krillin 18 came in, and that really just set it over the top, because the way that it fits with the theme of just going maximum hand destruction is amazing. Like, in a situation where you could tap 2 to Ribrian, instead you can tap 2 and essentially Ribrian them, rip 2 cards out of their hand, and establish 2 4-drop 20k bodies that are going to apply pressure to Unison and the board, and get you closer to that 12 required for the SCR. So the card is just fantastic.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I mean, it doesn't seem like you need the removal too much in that regard, because again, if you're ripping their hand as fast as you possibly can, then they're not going to have too many resources to play with. And that makes perfect sense with Dr. Gero, because actually that seems kind of nuts. Like, on a turn 3, combo Gero, arrival Krillin, dump Rebrian from your deck. That sounds like a really, really insane play there too.
Oh yeah, did that many times.
So going on to the final cards of the deck, we have 2 Power of Legend, the 1 Cell Xeno SCR, pretty much self-explanatory, and the 3 Sand Instincts. So Power of Legend, I'm really happy you played this card, because in the green decks I've been playing for set 10, I always want to play this card. But I get discouraged because the 0-cost combo, because it's a unique, because you need to see it at certain specific times. But I think in your deck, actually, with the top 5 search and just grabbing whatever you need, I think that actually makes it a lot better. So how did this card perform for you?
Oh yeah, this card is really, really good in this deck. Like you said, top 5 search, there's a lot of times where I grab him because I already have a Gero, I have a Krillin 18, so now I'm gonna swing with Leader or Demigra and combo that Gero, put a Ribrian in the drop, arrival of Krillin 18, play this guy out, tap 2, Ribrian, and then he's really adds to the pressure of the deck when you have him and Surprise Attack Frieza on board. That kind of gets the attention off your leader because of how threatening it is to have those 2 15k crit bodies coming at you every turn. And the more you get rid of their hand, the less likely they have the resources to deal with them. And once they're down to 0 cards in hand and you have these 2 crit guys just chipping away at them, it's really just a matter of time before you just walk them down to the finish line between those 2 and like Zamasu, who just makes sure that they keep 0 cards in hand.
Yeah, dude. I mean, that play you just described, like, that's a lot of pressure and a lot of hand ribbon in one go. It seems really, really strong. I'm actually pretty excited to mess with this deck myself after seeing this. Really, really cool, man.
Yeah.
And so final stuff. Like, so that's the whole main deck. This is the best of one tournament, obviously, so no side deck. Anything about the deck you would change going forward?
Honestly, since this is like the last hoorah for set 10, and basically not really. I've been working on the deck with my buddy Sosa pretty much all of set 10 format, and we've got it to the place where we were confident that like this deck is better than people think it is, and that's why I decided to take it to the tournament, and I'm glad it turned out that we were correct in that, and I'm just really happy with it. I don't think I would change anything until set 11 comes out, and then obviously adding set 11 cards is going to really be a big boon for the deck, I think. The Dark Broly stuff is going to be awesome. Yeah, I'm looking forward to the version of this deck that comes out in set 11, but as it is for set 10, I like the deck where it is.
Awesome, man. Once again, congratulations. Any shout outs you want to get out there?
Yeah, just shout out to you and your Patreon. Go subscribe to Joey's Patreon. That's a great resource. It helps me get better at the game. And shout out to my awesome playtesting group that comes over once a week to grind against all the different matchups and got me prepared for the event. And then of course, like I said, my buddy Sosa, who has been the other proponent of making this deck what it is and not losing faith in its abilities.
Awesome, man. Thank you so much for being on, and we'll see you next time.
Thank you.